All right, so I want to do another kind of video, and I kind of want to do like my season predictions. So, kind of going into the year, right? I made obviously like predictions for how I thought like the top 8 from each conference was kind of like projected out, and this was like going into the season mainly just because like we kind of seen all the roster overall from over the summer, kind of how teams were playing at this point, what we kind of see out of these rosters from who they drafted. Kind of just really felt pretty certain about certain teams, so I kind of wanted to talk about my predictions, kind of see what we got right, what we clearly got wrong, and kind of how we'll go from there. Let's start off with the East. So East, I have Boston as the number 1 overall seed again, and to an extent, the Boston Celtics, most people would still probably consider the Boston Celtics the best team, the best overall team in the league, which I can't fault you if you do. However, nobody expected Cleveland to be as good this year as they were before. Cleveland taking a leap, Cleveland took a leap, the team as a whole, but Darius Garland and Evan Mobley taking all-star leaps was not really predicted by a lot of people, and the fact that they acquired DeAndre Hunter at the trade deadline, so they got another 15 plus per game scorer off the bench, was really, really good as well. And then some of their other acquisitions in the offseason that they had were just really, really great additions to their squad that just they were overlooked in the beginning to kind of see where Cleveland would be placed down, but and like when you look at them, like when you look at Cleveland team as a whole, it kind of makes sense on like after all the positions and stuff that they did, how they ended up moving up. I just initially thought going into the year, I thought Cleveland was gonna be 6. I just didn't expect Evan Mobley and them to make that leap, so that's why I didn't have them there. The Knicks. A lot of people felt the Knicks were the second best team in the East going into the year, because once they had made that trade for Karl Anthony Towns, right, getting rid of Julius Randle off the team, getting somebody who's an actual spacer, right, getting somebody who can be 25 and 10, and a really good three-point shooter, felt like it was going to be huge for the Knicks. And in some ways, they're kind of disappointing because unfortunately they have struggled against the top teams. Like they struggled to beat the top teams that they did. They went 0-2 against the Lakers this year. They lost all their games to the Celtics. They lost all their games to the Cavs as well. They lost all their games to Oklahoma City. They were just not like they didn't beat the good teams this year. Like, well, and let's not say the good teams, right? Other teams are good, but they didn't beat the upper echelon teams. The teams that you think that, hey, I get a signature victory over them, I think that you can go deep in a postseason, and they just didn't have that this year. And that was one of the things that was unfortunate for the Knicks because, yeah, I really thought going to the year they were going to be 2. Now, 3 isn't like bad. They're still a 3 seed right now, but going into the year with the opposite acquisitions, we thought that the Knicks were going to be better, especially, and then because Mitchell Robinson didn't play immediately because he was still hurt going into the year, and we also thought, hey, when Mitch Rob gets back, that they were going to do well, but Tibbs is still running his players to the ground. Brunson had gotten an ankle injury during the Lakers game, and he had missed almost a month of basketball as well. They had gotten out of the groove. Yeah, just it's disappointing for the Knicks from the standpoint of you thought the Knicks were going to finally be able to take that leap and be able to challenge Boston, and they just didn't do that. Milwaukee. So Milwaukee's had such a weird year because you could tell Doc Rivers is just not it. People have known this for a while, but they still decided to hire Doc Rivers after they fired Adrian Griffin. Don't understand why they decided to do it, but okay, they decided to hire Doc Rivers. Then Doc Rivers gets Darvin Ham on his staff, and he brings Taurean Prince over from the Lakers last year. Taurean Prince hasn't been terrible, but I don't think Taurean Prince should be a starter on the Bucks roster. I just think he should be like more of like a 6-man coming off the bench, that's what he was for the majority of his career. He had alternated between starters at some places, bench off 6 men off the bench. I think he should have been a 6-man fan, but they played him as a starter, and therefore he was a starter on this team, which I don't think he probably should have been. Damian Lillard, unfortunately, has been wildly inconsistent this year, and then got blood clots, and he could miss. He's probably gonna miss the whole playoffs. Like, I'm not sure if they beat Indiana in that series, right? Maybe Giannis decides to pull a 2018 Braun and take the Bucks very, very far and pull some impossible stuff out. But I don't believe that's hard. I think it's hard for them to beat the Pacers in a 7-game series, especially without Dame, even though Dame's a defensive liability. So they're just missing that shot creation and offense from Dame. So with the blood clots out for a while, and then they traded for Kyle Kuzma, who Kyle Kuzma might have some of the worst basketball IQ I've ever seen known to man. So it's just very, very unfortunate kind of how the Bucks ended out. And then it's even worse because of injuries, the team getting old, bad coaching, and then one of your star players has blood clots. Just very, very unfortunate to kind of go on, to be honest. 76ers, I thought they were going to be pretty good because, again, Paul George, say whatever you want about how you feel about Paul George as a playoff performer. Paul George, I felt, because PG's play style is one of those play styles that I felt was just, you can plug and play into any offense, right? Like, he has one of those styles where he doesn't need to be ball dominant. He can shot create and get his own shot. And he was one of those players, he was one of those dudes that, while I thought the 76ers massively overpaid him, I also felt that him, Tyrese Maxey, and Embiid were going to be able to get a lot of points on possessions and make some good stuff. And they also, even during the year, made a trade for Quentin Grimes, and they got Quentin Grimes off the bench too, which Quentin Grimes, against the Warriors, I think he had like 50. I think Quentin Grimes had like 50 something against Quentin Grimes. Like, he had like 50 in that game. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Q Grimes had 50 in that game. But unfortunately for them, injuries to Embiid and Maxey happened. Injuries to PG also happened. And then one of the more unfortunate things that ended up going down as well is that PG regressed massively. And when you think about NBA age and reality, right? Most players realistically don't live. I said live. Whoa, I'm not taking somebody's life there, but most players don't make it that long, right? Your average NBA career is obviously 4 to 5 years, and then even most of the stars, after about a decade of running, they really slow down. So it's kind of it should make sense realistically on why PG is regressed. But you just look at his play style and you're just like, man, at 34 years old, I understand realistically, yeah, he should have regressed to how he did. But when you look at how he just was barely a year ago, you can't even believe you're looking at the same dude. You're just like, man, Paul George regressed like that? It was nuts. It didn't make sense. But yeah, it's just, I was completely wrong on the 76ers. I thought their roster, and I thought PG was going to mesh well better than they did. And then injuries and massive regression for PG just had the 76ers all the way wrong there. So some of these I'm not feeling terribly wrong for being bad wrong, because again, I wasn't a billion miles off, but man, it was very, very bad for that. Indiana Pacers. Indiana, I had them. They're the 4th seed in real life, but I have them as the 5th seed. Indiana didn't do too much in the offseason to really add anybody to go above the edge, and I didn't really see Indiana progressing too much further than they did. I thought pretty much how they ended up making the Western Conference final, the Eastern Conference Finals last year, is Nembhard hitting that shot in game 3, it changed the whole momentum. And then OG getting hurt, like OG was hurt in that series, then tried to rush back early. OG couldn't play in game 7. Brunson got hurt and Brunson couldn't play. I really think that the Pacers just kind of took advantage of that. Now, don't get me wrong, every game against Boston was close, and theoretically you could do the same argument for them that you did for the Lakers a couple years ago, that if some other role players or a possession or two had gone their way, that maybe they could win some of them games, if not the series. Same thing that people thought for the Lakers, but realistically, Boston was by far the superior team. And I just thought that Pacers had just ran into a really great route that they had, and I don't think the Pacers are going to run into that same type of route again during another trip during another postseason trip. Orlando Magic. I predicted the same thing here. I felt that Paolo and Franz were going to take some leaps, which in certain regards they did, but I also didn't think that their team was really constructed great at all as well. They also had the issue before last year. They had an issue of like too many point guards, and then they got rid of a bunch of point guards. Markelle Fultz is on the Sacramento Kings now. Cole Anthony was kind of in and out of the lineup all year, and then Jalen Suggs had dealt with some injuries. Jalen Suggs' injury was huge actually, because Orlando was doing great earlier in the year, had some good quality wins, and was getting on drill roll, and then Suggs going out kind of changed everything. Anthony Black, I'm not sure how I feel about Anthony Black at this point. I don't feel sold on him. And then the KCP move, which in hindsight, you could see that KCP benefited from being around LeBron and Jokic. But when you initially thought that, oh, hey, they got somebody who could be a decent shooter, if they can generate some looks, you thought that, hey, Orlando might have something here, and they run into a clogged offense that wasn't able to generate open looks. They were probably the worst offense in the league, and they're definitely the worst offense out of all the playoff teams that are left. And just didn't end up going as well. But yeah, maybe we'll see next year once Orlando tries to maybe make some deals, make some decision on people, where they might end up going from there. And then the last one, the Miami Heat. That last spot's not decided yet. So the last 2 spots are not decided yet, but pretty much how I feel is I think Orlando is going to beat the Hawks on Tuesday. So I think Orlando's going to get that 7th seed. And then the 8th seed, Miami should beat Chicago. Can they lose to Chicago too? Yeah, but I think Miami should beat Chicago. And then would they beat Atlanta for a match for the 8? I really don't know. Because missing Jalen Johnson for the year is huge, but Zachary Richichet has been playing a lot better towards the end of the year. Like, he's dropped like multiple games, like 35 plus. Like, he's like really developed great. Trae Young's obviously like locked in that 23 and 10 pretty much all year. Like, I think Trae Young was the assist leader again, if I'm not mistaken. He was the leader of assists. So Trae Young just did like great there. I'm really not sure who I would take in that matchup. I would probably maybe go Miami for experience, for their experience, for the team's experience. But I actually don't know who I would take in that one. But the Miami Heat were kind of just as projected. Not really a great regular season team. In the playoffs, they could turn it up, but not really a great regular season team. And now they don't even have Jimmy anymore, so there's no even playoff Jimmy. So yeah, that's kind of how that one works and how the cookie crumbled. Now let's get into the West. So Oklahoma City, I knew that the Hardenstein editions and the Caruso editions, I thought they were going to be major pieces, and I thought Chet was going to take a leap, Jada was going to take a leap, which they did. I thought everything was going to be true. I just did not expect some of their support in the cast to really be as good as they are. Aaron Wiggins off the bench is phenomenal, dude. He can hoop, really put the buckets in the basket. And I fuck with A. Wiggs. I've been fucking with A. Wiggs for like some years, going back to Maryland days. Hell, going even probably further back than that. But so I was happy when he got an NBA contract with when he got with OKC. But A. Wiggs showing this type of development, is huge. Case and Wallace being in development was pretty good. I'm watching Lou Dort hit threes, like really hit some shots. Now I still say fuck out of here when he hits it, but I'm watching Lou Dort hit threes and it's like, dude, I'm shocked. I'm watching what's it called? Isaiah Joe still do his thing. The two big lineup that they went with was actually doing pretty decent and working for them, and it works against Boston very well. Man, if I was definitely right about Oklahoma City being #1, hell, I thought that before the year, I'm pretty sure I said Oklahoma City was gonna I thought might win the championship. I'm probably still gonna stand on that. Talk about it, but yeah, man, Oklahoma City definitely did their big thing. #2, Memphis. I was very wrong about. Memphis hadn't had a signature win since back in November when they beat Boston in TD Garden. That's probably their last big signature win. Memphis just went on a losing streak against all the top teams. They just couldn't beat the top teams. They lost to the Lakers. They lost to they were getting beat the fuck up by Houston. They were losing to Oklahoma City as well. Denver they blew a game recently against Denver that could have helped them still potentially be in the top 6, and they blew that lead in the final couple of minutes against Denver. It's like, I'm gonna say the whole fourth quarter as a whole, but definitely the last, like, I want to say 2 to 3 minutes of that game recently as well. Man, Memphis just really is disappointing me, and then Ja's been in and out. Ja's been dealing with fine suspension. He got hurt again multiple times throughout the year, so he wasn't fully healthy as well. Jaren Jackson Jr. was for a period of time their best player, and I cursed Jaren Jackson Jr. to hell. I don't understand how Jaren Jackson Jr. consistently does not get high rebounds. Him having 2 games in some of the pivotal games that matter, having 1 rebound really irks me and gets on my last nerves. So he's another reason why I don't feel too strongly about them. Desmond Bane's been kind of solid all year. They fired Taylor Jenkins with 10 games left. Right? They fired Taylor Jenkins with 10 games left. Santi Aldama and Desmond Bane despise each other, so Santi is probably gone in the offseason. Yeah, man, just all around, just not great vibes in Memphis. I will say though, shout out to Jalen Wells. Before the dude in Charlotte caused him to break his hand, Jalen Wells had come up out of nowhere and really showed great improvement, especially being as earning a starting spot on the Grizzlies and being as good as he was. Man, Jalen Wells had a great year. I hope he can recover from that, because he got a broken bone in his face and broke his hand as well. Yeah, man. I hope he recovers from that. Denver, kind of close to where I expected. But Denver was also worse than a little bit worse than what they were this year. Because Denver lost even more depth pieces to that bench, losing obviously KCP, and then they went out in the offseason. They got Russell Westbrook for off the bench production, and Russ cost him 2 games. Russ clearly cost him the game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? Because if they win that game, then I think the Lakers still, how it ended out, the Lakers still get a 3 seed, but definitely they lost 2 winnable games with Russ smoking layups. Russ got a steal late in that game, had a chance to go up 3 points and smoke the layup. And then Minnesota got the ball back, and then he fouls on a 3-pointer at the end of the game, causing Minnesota to win the game, because they got 3 free throws on the line. And then he smokes another layup that he had. He literally smokes another layup again, try to go reverse against the Spurs, and they ended up losing that game to the Spurs. The Spurs it's funny. The Spurs in back-to-back seasons have caused a ripple effect in the NBA because they did it again to the Nuggets, right? By like literally did it again to the Nuggets, caused them like last year they caused the Nuggets not to get the #1 seed, and they dropped down to 2, and they did it again to the Nuggets where they caused the Nuggets to lose. But then Harrison Barnes a few games back hits a game winner buzzer beater that causes Golden State to be where Golden State's at. That's part of the reason why Golden State is where they're at. So it's just funny how the Spurs just be ruining lives out there. But yeah, Denver, Jokic is still one of the best ever. Jokic is going to get second runner-up to Shea and MVP this year. That's how good Jokic was. Jamal Murray in and out of the lineup as usual. Somebody's been inconsistent as well. Somebody I think is overrated. He's a playoff riser for sure, but I mean, the fact that he can't do this shit, I think, in the regular season just shows me how I really feel about Jamal Murray. Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon are just who they are at this point. Christian Brown maybe can develop, but yeah, then their bench hasn't been good at all. I mean, shout out to my boy Julian Strawther. I love that dude. Love that dude for life. That's my dog. But he's been injured and been in and out. He hasn't had much this year. And then they got backup. Then they got DeAndre Jordan and like Peyton Watson, some other dudes. Just not a good bench at all. Dallas. Now, funny enough, so let's just get Dallas and Lakers out of the way. So right when Luka got hurt, right during Christmas Day, Dallas was like, they were trying to float, but they were struggling a lot, and they didn't know how soon Luka was gonna come back. They had lost a decent amount of everything as well. And then the Lakers, AD had gotten hurt like a couple of games before the official trade against the 76ers, but the 76ers, but they bounced back and beat the Knicks in Madison Square Garden with no AD. And the Lakers, are pretty sure at the time the Lakers were at worst the 5th seed. I don't know. They might have been 4th by that day, but at worst they were the 5th seed. And then the trade that shocked the universe, where they sent Luka to the Lakers and AD to the Mavericks. And then obviously some other pieces as well, but Luka, the main two pieces. I mean, well, yeah, Max Christie, I guess, like a rotational piece for Dallas, but the main pieces that matter is obviously AD going to Dallas and Luka going to the Lakers. I was wrong on both of these teams. Yes, maybe some stuff doesn't happen, right? Like if Luka doesn't get hurt in Christmas against Anthony Edwards, right? And then obviously if AD was still dominant as he am, maybe we don't get to this point. Maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe it still does, even if they are healthy, because Mavericks aren't as good, and ownership still wanted to do this, but we really don't know 100% for sure, and we probably will never know. We're definitely never going to know, right? Unless somebody has access to alternate realities and can tell us a billion different scenarios of how else this could have played out. But realistically, we only have the one that we're in, which is this universe. And in this universe, Nico Harrison and ownership okayed Luka to get sent to the Lakers. And there's a bunch of conspiracy theories going around. Don't really know what to say about that. Hell, maybe could they move to Vegas? Possibly. Vegas is going to get a team soon. Although I thought it was going to be like they were going to expand, so just have two teams like Seattle and Vegas get teams. I didn't think they were going to take anybody's teams there, but hey, maybe the ownership wants to because they have a stake in Vegas. Maybe, who knows? That's a bunch of wild conspiracies on how that goes, but even then, I was still wrong on definitely at the Lakers front because I didn't give the Lakers as much credit for Dalton Connect early in the year being really, really good, and then that Dorian Finney-Smith trade before we even got Luka, that Dorian Finney-Smith trade changed a lot about the Lakers' trajectory as well. So I was definitely wrong about the Lakers and for sure wrong about the Mavericks. But then again, who could have predicted the trade of time? The trade of all time happening? Nobody could have. Minnesota pretty much was right around the same thing. Again, their spacing they traded Cat in the offseason because they were worried about this new CBA and the second apron. the spacing got a lot worse because now you got Randall clogging the paint, like clogging up with Gobert. So your spacing was okay-ish at first, and now it got even worse with Julius Randle. Dante DiVincenzo was a nice piece that I thought they got back in the deal, nice piece off of the bench, but Dante's been kind of inconsistent this year as well. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been a really nice addition for like, well, he's not an addition, but like a really nice like jump this year in production. I've liked his production. Jaden McDaniels has been kind of whatever this year, like kind of like mixed things on him. But Minnesota, I mean, they still were kind of around where I had them at before there. So yeah, Minnesota's kind of like is where they're at. Sacramento, another one I was fully wrong on. Sacramento, I thought pretty much right after getting out of the plan, I thought again maybe just some more time with their squad, and then maybe this is a thing of just being overly positive DeMar DeRozan. Maybe, I don't know why I guess it was overly positive on DeMar DeRozan on that squad, but I felt just them getting another scorer in the starting lineup was something that was going to be able to help them out. Instead, it just didn't help with their spacing at all. They got Mike Brown fired early in the year, so Mike Brown was fired, and then De'Aaron Fox demanded the trade and wanted to go pretty much one place, San Antonio, to go play with Wemby, and he got his wish. He got traded there, and him and Wemby had a little bit before Wemby went down with blood clots as well and was out for the year. But yeah, Sacramento's kind of just been like disastrous. And they're just kind of like in this place of mediocrity. I mean, they got Zach LaVine off the Bulls. I know the Bulls are very happy they got off of his contract in the long term. Although Chicago, it's hard for them to see them go anywhere unless they somehow land Cooper Flag. If they get Cooper Flag somehow in this draft lottery odds, then maybe Chicago can finally get a resurgence. But I mean, I know at the bare minimum, they were happy to get off of Zach's contract. Zach obviously has been inconsistent as he been all year. Some games he'll have like 25, 30. Other games he'll show you his ass and have like less than 15 points. So but Sacramento's been that kind of inconsistent roller coaster all year, and that's why they're number 9 right now in the play-in instead of actually being out of it. So yeah, I was definitely wrong on them. And then my lord, was I wrong about the Phoenix? Well, you know what though, in thought process, I don't think I was very wrong about the Phoenix Suns. Like in placement for sure, right? But I wasn't wrong about the Phoenix Suns. A lot of people, for whatever reason, had the Phoenix Suns as high as like 2 seed going into the year, and I never thought the Suns were that high. At the highest, I think I gave them, and we're gonna talk about it in my tweet, right? Like my tweet that we'll get into after this. The highest that I put the Phoenix Suns at was like the 5th seed, and I just didn't see how they were gonna like do it, like, right? Because technically, from a technicality standpoint, yes, their team actually got a lot better. They actually got better role players, right? Ryan Dunn was a nice draft addition that they got. Tyus Jones was better than any of the backup point guards that they had last year. They didn't have Okogie anymore. They only had what's it called? They had Royce O'Neal. They got rid of Mason Plumlee wasn't as bad. They got rid of Drew. They don't have Eubanks anymore, who was playing actual 5 minutes for them, he was terrible last year. They didn't have Okogie. Like, I felt that they actually had a better team. And obviously injuries played a part of it as well, but even when they were fully healthy, they just had terrible lineups. Right? Bunch of people, matter of fact, they kept saying like they were really still like shitting on Nurkic when they were the one who really wanted to get rid of DeAndre Ayton because they hated Ayton being lazy or whatever. And then they got Nurkic, who's one of the worst centers in the NBA, who played like shit. And then when they finally did get off of Nurkic, they got Nick Richards, which is a nice solid like backup center, but they were hailing Nick Richards as, hey, we got a center, let's check ball, we're gonna like move some mountains, and he didn't move mountains for them. Like, shout out to him having a really great first 3 games, but after them first initial 3 games, Nick Richards just fell off a cliff and didn't really impact their winning as much. Then they tried to do the Bull experiment again, give it Bull the ball and say, hey, let Bull cook, and didn't really work out for them. Kevin Durant was still his usual self. KD was hooping, but Booker regressed a little bit. Maybe his numbers may not show it in certain aspects, but when you watch him on the court, you can see here Booker didn't look the same. Maybe because of the injuries that he had throughout the year as well. But Booker didn't look the same, and Bradley Beal was just stealing money. Bradley Beal would have multiple games of just cardio and not making shots or being absolutely terrible on offense, defense, all around, just freely stealing money from the Phoenix Suns. And then he has a no trade clause. They traded for a guy that has a no trade clause, and he's one of the worst players. He's probably one of the worst players at that salary in the league. So yeah, I was right on to not be high on the Suns, but I also was like wrong placing them as high as I did in the playoff tier. So yeah, that was that one. And then kind of this last little section here, right? This one is just more so like I just want to kind of just go over this little section of what we were pretty much like was dealing with dealing with at the beginning of the year. As you can see, right, from October 17th, this is like a couple of days before the season on the 24th, right? Salute to the Lakers and Suns, most entertaining 5th, 6th seed that we will see in a while, right? And then, man, the Lakers finishing as an 8th seed game. Which, again, even before then, right, I thought this was crazy. But I understand maybe the sentiment, because, again, people didn't really think the Lakers were going to be that good. Again, I didn't have the Lakers that high as well. Obviously, nobody could predict the Luka trade, but also in hindsight, I mean, when we look at how the Lakers were playing, especially after the Dorian Finney-Smith trade, like, I think a lot of people were like, yeah, nobody could have predicted the Dorian Finney-Smith trade too. But I think, like, there was very clear, like, the Lakers had potentials to be decent. Like, they were decent. And again, 5th, 6th seed, if they didn't trade D'Angelo and kind of just stay where they're at, 5th, 6th seed, 7th area is kind of like the area I expected them to be at. So this makes a lot of sense, right? And then look at it then. Look, now, this is the homie Keese. Keese is the diehard Sun fan. He was just very loyal to the Suns. You kind of just gotta do this. Yo, why is this like, okay, I'm not even gonna hold you. Like, ignore this, bro. I understand that I follow some freaky accounts, but god damn, can this shit, like, I might have to mute that account. Like, hold on. Yo, hold on one second. I might have to mute this, right? My bad, y'all. So yeah, going back into it, but yeah, like I don't understand it. Look, here's the thing. He thought we could be better too, but he was like, unless somebody in the Suns out again, we're top 4. Fair. And fair to expect this, because again, the Suns were not going to, like, again, I also didn't count on the Suns' health as well, but let's also just be for real. This is a Lakers fan right here. He was also honest about the beginning of the year, but I was like, yeah, bro, like, I kind of see how it was going. Lakers are dog shit, whatever. We beat them second or third game of the year, whatever, don't hear it. And then another dude, I have actual issues with this dude, but that's like, whatever, not gonna talk about it. But again, so then I replied to my boy Keese, right? So, and I said, I love the confidence, right? So I asked, I said, so I was like, yo, so be honest, right? Because here's the thing. If you're saying the Suns, and if we're saying the Suns and the Lakers are going to both be in there, what are the 2 teams that you're kicking out? Like, I said the Lakers are no better, like 6, ceiling is 6, and I felt that way there. But I was like, the Mavericks, obviously this is with Luka and like still with Luka, but I had high hopes on Memphis for a while, and for a while Memphis was proving me right because they had gotten up to the 2 seed, and there was like a good time where they were looking good, but again, they didn't have signature wins, and they kind of messed up a lot of stuff, so hurt them in the long run. But again, kicking out the T-Wolves, the Mavs, Nuggets, OKC, like, who are you kicking out of this group? Right? Because I was like, yo, like, who do y'all really think that they're better for? And I had a bunch of these people, right? A bunch of this dude said, like, yeah, bro said the Grizzlies. Yes, I said the Grizzlies. I was not wrong on saying the Grizzlies. I was not wrong here at all, right? And then now look, obviously, like, this, now look, now I re-quoted him back in like February because I was just like, it's just shit, like, this is like after the trade, but it's like, it's crazy. But he was like, look at this, right? He was like, I don't know and don't care. Ain't no 4 teams better than us. We healthy. We're gonna have a top 5 offense. And I said, fair enough, stay healthy this season. And then let me go to the other tweets real quick. here's the other tweets, right? So some dudes was some more Suns fans were like, bro really says the Grizzlies, and I was like, Ja changes Memphis ceiling by every metric, and he told me to put the coat down, bro. They aren't better. And I said, like, and I replied to Brody, and I was like, look, by like my NBA hot take, Memphis could end up as the second seed of the West based on what. And then, hey, shout out to Ju. Ju is fucking hilarious. I love her. She is diehard Memphis Grizzlies fan. Love women's hoops. Love talking women's hoop with her. But she's hilarious, right? He was like, based on what, right? So I gave him my info here. I was like, the last time that Memphis was healthy, they were the 2 seed. Ja has a big that they were missing before, which because they got, obviously since Steven Adams was gone, they haven't had I would say a real 5 because Jaren doesn't really want to be a 5 and I met Zach Edey, which again, they had Edey for like decent stretch, and it's only Edey's year 1, but Edey's been pretty solid for them. It was like Jaren, JJJ, Triple J is still a great defender, which he is. Bane was still there, and GG Jackson was gonna be back. And this is kind of based off of how GG Jackson was playing before the end of last year. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I heard that I've seen him fall out of rotation, but I really believed in GG Jackson. I still do. I think maybe this is just like a down year. Hopefully he rises back up, especially if Jalen Wells is going to be gone for a minute, trying to recover from everything and get back to his normal self. But man, I was a big believer in GG Jackson. Oh, and then freaking Twitter. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Twitter. Ever since Elon took over, Twitter sucks. But yeah, no, that's literally how that ended up going there on that. So it was just like funny seeing a bunch of like Suns fans that were trying to well, it's definitely a bunch of Suns fans for sure, but it's just funny that trying to see a bunch of like, you know, fans that were but like pretty much a bunch of fans that were trying to like shit on my basketball opinions. It was like, whoa, like bro, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about, X, Y, and Z. When it was I felt that there was very clear signs that the Suns and the Lakers didn't have high ceilings. Now, obviously, again, nobody could have predicted the Luka trade. Like, the Luka trade changed the whole Western Conference, I think, as a whole, right? But also in the same breath, it's also just like, dude, I feel like a lot of this was like pretty obvious that like the Lakers, their ceiling was as where it was, and the Suns had like a very, in my opinion, clear ceiling. Like, I think that it was like just a very clear ceiling there. But hey, what do I know? But yeah, that's gonna be pretty much it, y'all. What do y'all think about kind of me talking about my predictions before the year? I love doing predictions before the year. Obviously, I'm going to keep doing them for a while, and I love that I kind of went through every single team and what I got right, what I got wrong. I don't think that I got a ton of these. Okay, in terms of like actual standings, yes, obviously I didn't get a bunch wrong, but like in the ballpark areas of where I like having of like where I had a lot of teams, I kind of had a lot of teams like in the ballpark of where I thought that they were gonna be, right? Like again, Boston, New York, Milwaukee, Indiana, like I had them all in Orlando, Miami. I had them all like in the ballpark of like pretty much where I at. The main area where I really feel like I messed up was just the Western Conference. Like the Western Conference was, for the most part, like where I got a bunch of like stuff wrong. But again, nobody could have predicted like some of the stuff that happened during the year, so like shit really changes. But I mean, I was very wrong on Memphis, very wrong on Dallas and Minnesota, like Dallas and Sacramento, and I don't think I was crazy wrong on the Suns, because during the year I didn't think highly of the Suns anyway. They were just a lot worse than what I actually thought in practicality to be where they at. But I don't think I was crazy wrong on the Suns. The Lakers, I was very low on my squad. I felt that their ceiling could have been 6. It felt a little bit higher, which again, they were around that area before the Luka trade. They were hovering around that 4th, 5th area, so not far from 6. But yeah, kind of see how the before the year stuff goes. And that's gonna be it, y'all. I appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. There's been another Hoop Nights video. I love you guys. Chaos Control Army, I'm out. It's your boy Y2Shadows. See you in the next one. Deuces.